It's 9:47 on a Tuesday morning in March, and Kian is on a Zoom call he's barely listening to. Project updates, queue, to roadmap, nothing unusual. Then he notices his director's camera cuts off mid-sentence. Then he sees the calendar invite that just popped into the corner of his screen. 10 a.m., 15 minutes. His director and someone from HR subject line says, "Quick sync." Kian's stomach drops through the floor. He tries to nod along for the next 12 minutes like nothing's wrong. At 10:02, he's in the meeting. At 10:14, he's logged out. At 10:17, his badge stops working before he finishes packing his desk. By 10:30, he's sitting in his car in the parking lot holding a cardboard box with a coffee mug and a picture of his 2 kids, and a manila envelope with a severance document he hasn't read yet. My name is Nick, and here's what that envelope doesn't tell him. The version of job loss his dad lived through, it's gone, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens to Kian's money, his health insurance, and his timeline the second he walks out that door. Leave a like, and let's start. Kian is 38, software engineer, makes $140,000 a year, which sounds like a lot until you actually look at his life. He's got a wife, Yana, who works part-time as a nurse because childcare for 2 kids costs roughly the same as her old full-time salary did. They own a 3-bedroom in a suburb outside Dallas. Mortgage is $3,200 a month. They have about $9,000 in a savings account, which feels like a cushion until you realize it's less than 2 months of their actual expenses. Kian is also, statistically speaking, about to find out that everything he thinks he knows about losing a job is wrong. Let's start with the number everyone keeps repeating. 4.3% unemployment sounds fine, sounds like a normal economy, and technically it is. That's roughly where unemployment sat in March 2018, back when the job market felt healthy. The problem is that the 4.3% you're hearing about in 2026 is hiding a completely different animal underneath. Because here's what they don't mention. Hiring has collapsed to 3.1%, which is tied with April 2020 for the lowest rate on record. April 2020, if you remember, is the month the entire economy was literally shut down. And we're back there. Not because companies are firing everyone, but because they've just quietly stopped hiring. Economists have a phrase for this. They call it the low hire, low fire equilibrium, which is a polite way of saying if you have a job, keep it because the door to the next one just closed. Job openings have fallen from 12 million at the peak in 2022 down to 6.9 million. Meanwhile, there are 7.6 million unemployed Americans looking for work. That means for the first time since 2021, there are more unemployed workers than there are open positions in the entire country. Every unemployed person in America could take every open job, and some of them would still be stuck without one. This is the market Kian just walked into. He spends the first week doing what laid-off people do. He updates his LinkedIn. He tells himself he'll take a few days to reset. He polishes his resume. By week 2, he's applied to 78 jobs. By week 5, he's heard back from exactly 3 of them, and 2 of those were automated rejections. Kian starts doing the math on what he calls his application funnel and what the rest of us call the slow onset of existential dread. Here's the thing. In 2016, you could send 15 applications and get an interview. By 2023, it was closer to 42. Today, the number hovers around 100 applications for every interview. And for senior level white collar roles like Kian's, LinkedIn reports that hiring for jobs paying over $125,000 fell 32% in a single year. The average job search in 2026 is now 25.7 weeks. That's nearly 6 months. Not 6 weeks, 6 months. Oh, and roughly 43 of the 78 jobs Kian applied to, nobody ever saw them. They got screened out by an AI resume filter before a human read them. Welcome to 2026. And that's assuming the jobs he's applying to are even real, because about 1 in 5 listings on major job boards right now is what's called a ghost job, a posting the company has no intention of filling. One survey found that 93% of HR professionals admit to posting ghost jobs at least sometimes. So Kian is spending his emotional energy on applications that were never going anywhere. Nobody tells him, he just gets silence, okay? So week 6 rolls around, and Kian finally sits down to figure out the safety net. First stop, unemployment insurance. In 2026, unemployment insurance is basically a lottery based on which state you happen to live in. If you live in Washington state, your maximum weekly benefit is $1,152. If you live in Mississippi, it's $235. Same job loss, same circumstances, different zip code, and one person is getting 5 times what the other is getting, $235 a week in 2026. You can spend that on a single target run and still walk out wondering what you forgot. Kian is in Texas, so his max is $560 a week, which sounds okay until you remember his old paycheck was $2,700 a week. So he's now replacing roughly 20% of his prior income, and even that comes with a catch, because unemployment benefits are fully taxable. Come next April, the IRS will send him a 1099-G and ask for their share of the money that was barely covering groceries, and in 12 states, you don't even get the standard 26 weeks. Florida, North Carolina, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Tennessee cap benefits at 12 weeks, 3 months. That's your runway. Missouri just passed a law where benefits now scale between 8 and 20 weeks depending on the state's unemployment rate. So the healthier the economy looks on paper, the shorter your cushion gets. It's a policy that only makes sense if you've never personally lost a job. But honestly, sitting in Kian's kitchen, scrolling through his UI paperwork isn't even the moment that breaks him. The moment that breaks him comes 2 days later when Yana opens an email from their insurance company. Because here's what changed in 2026 that nobody is talking about loudly enough. The enhanced ACA subsidies that made marketplace health insurance affordable for 22 million Americans expired on December 31st, 2025. Congress did not extend them. So on January 1st, premiums more than doubled. The average annual payment jumped from $888 to $1,904, a 114% increase overnight, and the old 400% federal poverty line subsidy cliff came roaring back. Kian and Yana are staring at the screen. They make just over the threshold. The quote for a benchmark family plan through the marketplace comes in at $2,180 a month. Yana does the math in her head twice before she accepts it's real. That's $26,160 a year for health insurance for 4 people, after Kian just lost his income. They look at Cobra next. Cobra is the federal program that lets you keep your old employer's insurance. The catch is you have to pay the full cost plus a 2% admin fee. The average Cobra premium for a family plan in 2026 is $2,294 a month. That's $27,533 a year, roughly the cost of a new Toyota Corolla, every single year just to stay insured. Yana gets a migraine that night. Kian sleeps on the couch because he can't stop running numbers in his head. Now let me show you what's happening to their actual budget, because this is where the math gets personal. Kian got 8 weeks of severance, which is slightly above average. Only about 1 in 3 laid off workers in 2026 gets any severance at all. So he has $21,500 gross, taxed at the 22% federal supplemental rate plus FICA plus Texas state tax, leaving him around $14,000 net. That's his runway. His Texas unemployment is $560 a week, or about $2,240 a month. After tax withholding, call it $1,900. His mortgage is $3,200. If they keep Cobra, health insurance is $2,294. Add utilities, car payments, groceries, 2 kids in elementary school, and they're burning through about $7,800 a month. Their total income right now, counting Kian's UI and Yana's part-time paycheck, is about $3,800. They're underwater by $4,000 every single month. The severance covers 3.5 months if they don't touch anything else. Their $9,000 savings covers another 2. That's 6 months, which happens to be exactly how long the average unemployed American is looking for work right now. This is the part where people start making the decisions that quietly break their financial life for the next decade. Keon looks at his 401k. It has $185,000 in it. He's thinking maybe he pulls $25,000 out to buy more runway. And this is where 2026 is quietly breaking records. 6% of 401k participants took a hardship withdrawal in 2025. That's triple the pre-pandemic rate. When you pull $25,000 out of a 401k before age 59 and a half, you pay your income tax on it plus a 10% penalty. So Keon takes out $25,000, and after federal, state, and penalty, he walks away with maybe $15,000. He just paid $10,000 to access his own money. But here's the part the calculator doesn't show him. That $25,000, if he'd left it alone at a 7% average return over the next 25 years, would have grown to roughly $136,000 in retirement. So the real cost of that withdrawal isn't $10,000. It's closer to $120,000 in money he'll never see. Job loss doesn't just put a gap in your resume, it puts a hole in your future that keeps getting bigger long after you've found a new job. While Keon's crunching these numbers at his kitchen table, it's worth talking about what's happening to him that isn't on the spreadsheet. The research on unemployment and mental health is grim. Long-term, unemployed Americans are more than twice as likely to be in treatment for depression as full-time workers. After 6 months, nearly 1 in 5 is clinically depressed. Suicide risk among the long-term unemployed is 70% higher than in the general population. A Harvard study found husbands without full-time work are 33% more likely to get divorced within 12 months. Kids of displaced parents are about 15% more likely to be held back a grade in school. There's a study from 1930s Austria in a town where the main factory closed that identified 5 things a job gives you beyond money: time structure, social contact, purpose, status, activity. When you lose a job, you don't just lose income, you lose all 5 at once. That's why people describe feeling like they've lost themselves, because functionally they have. Keon stops sleeping well around week 7. He starts avoiding old coworkers on LinkedIn. He snaps at Yana over something about the dishwasher that has nothing to do with the dishwasher. This is not a character flaw. This is statistically what happens to a human being in his position. And almost nobody talks about it because nobody wants to admit their identity was that tangled up with a job title, okay? I need you to pay attention to the next part because this is the thesis of the entire video. In 2008, when the financial crisis hit, Washington deployed a $787 billion stimulus. In 2020, during the pandemic, the government sent out more than $5 trillion. Stimulus checks, an extra $600 a week on top of unemployment. Later, $300, eviction moratoriums, pandemic unemployment assistance for gig workers, a $3,600 child tax credit that cut child poverty almost in half. Student loan payments paused, Medicaid continuous enrollment, PPP loans. In 2026, none of that exists. The enhanced ACA subsidies expired in December, the Save Student Loan Plan got killed, interest resumed in August, wage garnishment for defaulted borrowers started again earlier this year. Medicaid shed 25 million people once continuous enrollment ended. SNAP got cut by $186 billion. The expanded child tax credit reverted to the old version. The eviction moratorium has been gone since 2021. Pandemic unemployment assistance for gig workers expired the same year, so if you're a freelancer, a rideshare driver, a contractor, you have no federal unemployment program at all. None. Here's the part I want to sit with for a second. The safety net wasn't destroyed. Nobody voted to destroy it. It was just allowed to expire program by program while everyone was distracted by something else. And that's arguably worse than if it had been demolished on purpose, because there's nothing to point at as the enemy, no villain, no dramatic vote, just a slow, bureaucratic unwinding. By the time people noticed they needed the net wasn't there anymore. Keon didn't vote for any of this. He also didn't vote against it. Neither did you. And then there's the new variable that didn't exist in any previous downturn, the one I've been hinting at this entire video. Because remember those 43 jobs that got filtered out by AI before a human read Kian's resume? That wasn't an accident. And it's not just Kian. A Stanford study from August 2025 looked at payroll data across millions of workers. Employment for workers aged 22 to 25 in AI-exposed jobs has dropped 13% since ChatGPT launched in late 2022. For young software developers specifically, it's 20%. Meanwhile, workers over 30 in those same jobs actually saw employment growth of 6 to 12%. The AI displacement is targeted. It's targeted directly at entry-level white-collar work. Salesforce cut its customer service team from 9,000 people down to 5,000. Their CEO said on a podcast, and I'm quoting here, "I need less heads." Microsoft saved $500 million in its call centers last year alone by replacing humans with AI. Satya Nadella said the company will grow headcount, but with, quote, "a lot more leverage thanks to AI." Snap says 40% of its new code is AI generated. Amazon cut 30,000 corporate jobs between October 2025 and January 2026. That's the largest corporate layoff in Amazon's history. And then there's the line that stopped me cold when I first read it. The CEO of Anthropic, one of the biggest AI companies on Earth, said last year publicly that AI could wipe out 50% of all entry-level white-collar jobs within 5 years. 50%. Within 5 years. That's the guy building the thing, saying it out loud. Kian's old company, by the way, just announced they're replacing 3 analyst roles on his team with AI. His team. The one he left 6 weeks ago. So when you zoom out on all of it, the frozen hiring market, the 6-month average search, the state lottery of UI benefits, the healthcare cliff that just doubled, the $500 median emergency fund, the safety net that quietly expired, and the AI machine steadily eating the exact kind of work most of us built our careers around. What you get is a picture where losing a job in 2026 is not just financially harder than it was in the past, it's structurally different. The cushion is thinner, the search is longer, the bottom when you hit it is harder. Kian is gonna be okay, by the way. 8 months in, he lands a new role. Pay is $118,000. That's $22,000 less than what he was making. Research on wage scarring suggests he may never fully catch up to the earnings trajectory he was on before the layoff. That gap, compounded over 25 years of retirement contributions, is roughly $500,000 in future wealth. The day after his new job offer comes in, Kian does one small thing. He opens a high-yield savings account, puts $200 in, sets up an automatic $400 transfer every 2 weeks. It's not dramatic. It's not going to make him rich. What it is a door he can close behind him, so the next time a calendar invite pops up on a Tuesday morning at 9:47, he has something on the other side of the door that isn't panic. Because here's the only real lesson in any of this. The people who come out of economic shocks intact are almost never the ones with the highest incomes. They're the ones who built the door before they needed it. The quiet, boring work you do when things are fine is the only thing that protects you when they stop being fine. And if you're waiting until your own 9:47 Tuesday to start, you're already 3 steps behind. The rules of job loss have changed in 2026. The rules of preparation haven't. They're just finally the only thing that matters. If this changed how you're thinking about your job, your savings, or your next move, drop a comment telling me which part hit hardest. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time, because Kian's story is not over and neither is yours.